For those of you who miss seeing it, these are our 7 UU principles, which are the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience and the use of democratic process within our congregations and in society at large, one of my favorites, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, and respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Well, thank you, Sharon, and thank you, Mark. And good morning, everyone. Thank you for sharing your time with us today. I'm Rick Schwartz, and I'll be your host for this service. Reverend Nori has the day off, but she pre-recorded her sermon, so we'll be hearing from her later. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. I hope you're safe and well wherever you are, and I hope you enjoy today's service. Traditionally, whether we're on Zoom or live, we say it is not necessary for you to indicate where you're from or that you're new to us, but you're welcome in the chat if you wish to say that you're here for the first time. And I know that some of our folks will notice that and say thank you and welcome to you. Before our regular announcements, I want to repeat what I said before, just as a reminder. I ask everyone to just stay muted during the service, except for those who are our regular speakers. You'll still be able to hear everything, and you can use your chat box to say hi to folks and make comments. Second, I invite you to join us after service for fellowship. I'm going to assign everyone to a breakout room where you can unmute yourself and hobnob with your roommates. There will be a choir band breakout room where I've assigned members of the All Souls choir and band. You can leave any of those breakout rooms at any time by clicking your leave button. If you want to change rooms, just click the ask for help, which I think is a question mark button, and I'll check in with you in case you, for example, want to change rooms. AB will post these instructions again well, he's done it already, in the chat box, and we may see it again a little bit later. Now for the announcements. I have a few. I'll try to get through them quickly. During this time of Zoom services, we are not sharing joys and concerns on Sundays. Instead, Reverend Nori hosts a Joys and Concerns Zoom call all of its own on Tuesday evenings at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time. The link for joining that meeting is in the e-letter. Second, if you're an educator and or a school staff member, first I want to thank you all for all you've done and for all you continue to do to serve our children and our society. If you're concerned about your school district's reopening plans, you can join other educators and school staff members to discuss and strategize in a special Zoom call that starts at 1 p.m. Mountain Time today. AB will post the link for that Zoom meeting in the chat. The Paraclete project, which Nori's been talking about for a few weeks now has a Facebook page with info on the anti-racism training and the NPR series Reconstruction America After the Civil War that she's also been talking about. AB will post the URL link for that Facebook page in the chat. All Souls now has its own YouTube channel. Until we create an easy link, the best way to get there is to go to youtube.com and search for All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church CS. AB is going to post that. And the reason that you have to use the CS is that there's another church in Kansas City, a UU church, that has the same name. They use KS. If you use CS, then you'll know which one it is. We've inaugurated our channel by posting the 3-part service series from July, the one where Nori gave 3 consecutive sermons based on about obstacles. And we'll also be posting new services as they come up going forward, as well as adding past services. You'll still see links to all of those services on our Facebook pages. My last announcement is a sort of PSA. Some of you might have recently gotten an email from Trudy Wells with the subject, Create Your All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church Account. And you might have appropriately wondered if it was fake. What I can tell you is it is not fake. It is in fact a valid email. We recently completed the switch of our church records from ChurchDB to a new program called Breeze. Trudy is our bookkeeper, and she has been managing that switch. Now that the switch is final, Trudy is inviting each member, if you are interested, to accept the profile and giving platform that Breeze has created for you. So, if you get that email, it's okay to click the button. Those are the announcements. Now, let's take a few moments to scroll through the gallery and greet one another. So I just wave, or however you want to do it. You can also type in the chat, hello everybody. I see Phyllis, I see Bill and Kathy, Brad, Andy, Jan and Sherry. Hello, Tobias, Joe and Beth, David, Eunice, hello. Robert and Betsy is in there in the background somewhere. Sandra, hello. There's Betsy and Sarah and Lynn and Barb, Justin and Phyllis. We have a full crowd here today. Jane and Steve, Tamsin, Carla, hi there. Bonnie and Eric, Kathleen, Allie, Richard from the mountains, Ed, Ben, Dan and Christy, Richard Ware, hi there, Richard. Hello, Julie. Hi, Beth, Jesse, Meredith, Lori, Jackie, and Kelly. August, wow. Yes, we are up to 54 people. Luis and Tom, Bruce, Fabiola, and Pam. And I'm running out of breath. Barb, and Tim, and Alma, Erica. Congratulations, Erica, on your hiring as our new youth coordinator. Linda, and everyone. And we may get a few more before we're done. Our response to this pandemic has demonstrated to me clearly that spiritual community is still an essential part of our lives, but it does not require physical closeness. Your presence here, in all of your wonderful diversity, is ample evidence of that. So, I invite you now to take in a focusing breath and reflect on the shared sanctity of this gathering time brought to you by you as I ring the bell.
Our chalice lighting reading today is by Walt Whitman. I have perceived that to be with those I like is enough.
To stop in company with the rest at evening is enough.
To be surrounded by beautiful, curious, breathing, laughing flesh is enough.
To pass among them or touch any one.
Or rest my arm ever so lightly round his or her neck for a moment. What is this then?
I do not ask any more delight. I swim in it as in a sea.
There is something in staying close to men and women.
And looking on them, and in the contact and odor of them.
That pleases the soul well.
All things please the soul, but these please the soul well.
I'm Beth Green, Director of Religious Exploration. I'll be sharing our story for all ages. But before I get into the story, just a couple of quick RE announcements. I do have the RE registration form out as well as the volunteer registration. Even if you've registered before, you may be familiar, we have to re-register every single year. And as Rick had mentioned, we're using the new Breeze database, so it's pretty nifty. So if you're thinking about coming back to RE, or if you know somebody that's interested, reach out to me. I've already have the forms out on the e-letter. They're on the website. I can always email them to anyone. And then for the next 2 weekends, we also have parent and volunteer orientation, since we will be completely virtual for the entire year, and we have a lot of exciting changes coming into the program to kind of work with this. It's super beneficial to come to one of those orientations. This Saturday will be our volunteer orientation from 9 to 10. The Zoom link for that is on the e-letter, on the website. I'll share them on Facebook as well. And then our first parent orientation is going to be Sunday following service from 1 to 2:30, give you a little break to eat and feed the kids. And then we'll be having more orientations the last weekend of August. So please come. If you're thinking about volunteering and you're a little unsure, you can always pop into the orientation just to see what it's about and how we're going to be running the program this year. And we would love to have you. So with that, those are all my announcements. I have Story for All Ages. It is Love the World by Todd Parr. He's one of my favorites. Love the world. Love your face. Love your space. Love your nose. Love your toes. Love your eyes. Love your size. Love your walk. Love your talk. Love giving a hand. Love taking a stand. Love yourself. Love the world. Love the bees. Love the trees. Love your ears. Love your tears. Love your hair and love your flair. Love being kind. Love using your mind. Love making art. Love sharing your heart. Love yourself and love the world. Love your giggle, love your wiggle, love your grin, and love your skin. Love the land, love the sea. Love the earth, love you and me. Love yourself, love the world. You will meet many people and go to many places. You can always find something to love about yourself, the world, and everyone in it. Love yourself and love the world. The end. Love, Todd.
Our reading today is by Barbara Brown Taylor from her book, An Altar in the World, A Geography of Faith. The wisdom of the Desert Fathers includes the wisdom that the hardest spiritual work in the world is to love the neighbor as the self. To encounter another human being, not as someone you can use, change, fix, help, save, enroll, convince, or control, but simply as someone who can spring you from the prison of yourself, if you will allow it. All you have to do is recognize another you out there, your other self in the world, for whom you may care as instinctively as you care for yourself. To become that person, even for a moment, is to understand what it means to die to yourself. This can be as frightening as it is liberating. It may be the only real spiritual discipline there is.
For these reasons and more, the world's great religions have always required communities of people to make them work. Whether they call themselves congregations, covens, ummas, or churches, these communities are the concrete places where the teachings of the religion are tested. Sometimes the teachings explode in people's faces. Other times they save people's lives. Either way, the teachings mean little apart from the embodied practices of the community.
Well, it's good to see you all, even though I'm not really there. but I'm glad to be with you this morning and share with you as we're continuing on in our series on spiritual disciplines for the rest of us. The series is based on the book An Altar in the World, A Geography of Faith by Barbara Brown Taylor. And in this book, she prescribes ways we can find the holy, feel the awe, and touch the sacred in everyday moments, in everyday encounters in life. And today we're looking at the spiritual discipline of encountering others. This is a particularly poignant discipline in a global pandemic that leaves us isolated and alone, physically separated from those outside our very small germ circles. I just returned from my niece's wedding, where we all sat with our germ circles with our masks on, except for a few brief photos. It was a lovely day, but there was no dancing, no hugging old friends or relatives. I remember how in the early days of HIV/AIDS, when we didn't know for sure how it spread, and people in the queer community stopped hugging for a period of time, or only hugged those in their germ circle, just as today. Ironically, when we needed human contact the most, we were afraid of it, of what it would cost. And I remember from those days a scene in the movie Longtime Companion, in which a young man was visiting a friend in the hospital who'd been diagnosed with AIDS, and after they had hugged, he excused himself to go to the bathroom, where he just scrubbed and scrubbed his hands, because it felt as if every encounter in community could possibly mean death. And it kind of feels that way today too, doesn't it? And yet, ironically, in this time of social distancing, we need one another more and more, which is why we still gather each week here as a gathered community, gathered in spirit, if not in person. And the science group still meets, and the book club. Why is this so vital? Well, for one thing, it reminds us that we do not live in isolation, but rather in a complicated, interconnected web of intricacy. We actually need others to become our best self. There's a proverb in the Hebrew scripture which says, "As iron sharpens iron, so one friend sharpens the other." And we need that. Barbara Brown Taylor tells the story of an early desert father saying, "If you see one person climbing into heaven on their own merit, take them by the foot and toss them to the ground, because it's not good for them to do that." Being in community reminds us not to rely on our self-sufficiency. And even though religions have had their share of monastic men and women who lived outside the common community, either as hermits or in very, very small communities, they would still come together to bear witness to the wisdom of the gathered community. Our own faith, Unitarian Universalism, has its roots in the congregational denomination of the United Church of Christ, just like our neighbor down the street from us. And that is rooted in the Cambridge Platform of 1648, in which they broke off from the Anglican Church with all of its hierarchy and structure and rules, and created a faith with no hierarchy above the power of the local congregation. The local congregation called its own minister, set its own governance, made it its own budget. It was an independent body. However, they also agreed that each local congregations would be bound up in a community of local congregations so that they could bear witness to the wisdom of the larger community. So that gathered community could gently and lovingly maybe steer a local congregation or minister or board of trustees back on track if they had lost their way. And we as individuals also need the wisdom of the gathered community, a circle of friends, families, colleagues. Many of us belong to more than just All Souls as community. Maybe we're part of the Pillar community or hikers or the Sierra Club, because we know that there is strength in community. We share common values, hold similar interests, believe similar things. And on one hand, this is what keeps them together, but on the other hand, it's also what keeps people out. It keeps out people who don't have those same values and beliefs, and gives a distorted view of the world, a bubble of privilege and protection, which we kind of amble about in blissfully and unaware. Just think back to nearly 4 years ago. and how we were all awaiting the results of the 2016 election. How I was at a Democratic party in downtown. I was dressed all in white for the suffragette movement, had my picture taken with cardboard Hillary, and then how we watched with growing dread what had happened, how we began to grasp that unthinkably things had gone horribly awry. How did we miss that possibility? Because we were only talking to others like us. See, the true spiritual discipline in encountering others is in encountering self in strangers, in developing the ability to look at someone so different from how we see ourselves that we feel as if we don't even have a frame of reference, and loving them and seeing them as sacred, and even welcoming them into the safety and warmth of our own homes and hearts. There's a reason why this theme comes after last week's service about the spiritual discipline of getting lost. Because much of the hospitality that shows itself in caring for the stranger is because we know what it's like to be the stranger. We know what it's like to be lost, to have to ask for help. Because we were lost, hopefully, we have compassion for those wandering down our streets looking as if they don't belong, looking as if they have no community. To welcome them in from the dark night rife with highway bands of robbers and wild animals. Hopefully, remembering our own desperate wandering in the wilderness will open us up to the wild otherness of our fellow sojourners on this earth. And just like I said last week, there is a basic and advanced course of getting lost, spiritual discipline of getting lost 101 and 201. There's also a 101 and 201 course in encountering others. In the basic version, maybe you just become aware of the humanity of strangers in your peripheral vision. Maybe if we just saw the checkout clerk at King Soopers as a fellow sojourner, we might treat him with a little more courtesy, recognizing the sacredness of his life, recognizing his whole world is not dependent on us giving him groceries that he then gives us change for, right? Recognizing he has a life outside of just giving our change. Maybe that would help us put love and community into our thank you as we look him in the eyes while he gives us his change. My mom is visiting with me this week following our niece's wedding. We made the 8-hour drive on Tuesday, got in around 3 p.m. We're in urgent care at 4 p.m. where she got a couple shots to treat an infection she had gotten from being bitten by my sister's cat. That had happened on Sunday, and by the time we arrived at my house on Tuesday, the infection had clearly spread from the base of her hand down all where the bite was, down almost all the way to her elbow. And at the urgent care, the doc had drawn a circle, an outline around the redness of the infection, and said, if it goes beyond those boundaries, then you need to go to the ER. And so it was that at 10 p.m. on Tuesday, there we were in the waiting room at the emergency room at the Grandview Hospital by Costco on North Nevada. It was quiet. We only had to wait a few minutes until she was ushered into an ER room. And just as we were leaving the waiting room, I suddenly became aware that there had been a woman cleaning the whole time. I mean, she just spends her days cleaning up the messes of other humans, right? And I almost walked right by her without acknowledging her. But in that last split moment, I turned to her and said, thank you. That's all. I just turned and said, looked her in the eye and said, thank you. I was smiling, though she couldn't see my mouth. Maybe she saw that in my eyes. And she said, you're welcome. Nothing much, just a basic 101 practice of encountering another, of seeing the sacred in her eyes and saying thank you. The advanced version goes one step beyond that to not only welcoming the other, but seeing ourselves in the other, seeing our shared humanity, seeing the wonder of DNA that we share. If we want gold stars in practicing the advanced version of the spiritual discipline of encountering others, we can choose to see encounters with others, even with those so vastly different from us, even with those whose beliefs would harm us or value us. We would see them, those encounters, as sacred, has holy encounters. We would see ourselves in them, not just the woman who's cleaning or the clerk at King Super. And that changes everything. It changes how we treat one another, not in spite of our differences, but in the luxurious, generous, abundant flaunting of them. Now more than ever, this is of vital importance. The next few months leading up to our national election will be rife with vile and vicious rhetoric from all sides of the room. Accusations of evil or ill intent based on identity politics or religion will fill our Facebook feed, and we will be shocked that some of that will come from our friends, and many of it will come from those who consider themselves to be religious in one way or another. We have just enough religion to make us hate one another, Jonathan Swift once observed, but not enough to make us love one another. Barbara Brown Taylor quotes Miroslav Volf from his award-winning book, Exclusion and Embrace. Volf, a Bosnian-born theologian, says, "It may not be too much to claim that the future of our world will depend on how we deal with identity and difference." Then Barbara Brown Taylor adds, "Citizens of the United States, which is presently the most religiously diverse nation on the face of the earth, would do well to pay attention to that claim." Indeed, we would do well to listen to that claim, to embrace rather than exclude those who are different from us, to show compassion to the foreigner in our midst, to the refugee, the immigrant, to not shy away from encountering the others simply because we don't understand how they move through the world. It gets harder when we extend that same hospitality to those who still embrace the fascist, racist, xenophobic politicians currently in office. But they're the other that we encounter as well. And how can we see ourselves in them and see those as sacred moments as well? Our universalist side of the house tells us that no one is beyond the reach of redemption of their humanity. Maybe that's the postdoctorate course of this particular spiritual discipline. Here's the thing, though. If it were easy, it wouldn't be called a discipline at all. The greatest core of humanity calls us to this level of seeing our common unity in this diverse world, of encountering others and seeing ourselves within them and calling both holy. May we do so with gladness and with grace.
Take it away, Mark.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in blessed with love and amazing grace when our heart is in a holy place. When we share the silence of sacred space and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
Our offertory reading is also by Barbara Brown Taylor, An Altar in the World, A Geography of Faith. Our lives are inextricably bound up with the lives of other people. So much depends on things we can never control. A butterfly beats its wings in Beijing, making it impossible to predict the weather in New York. We now have the opportunity to impact not only our local communities, but our world as we give generously of our financial resources. Instructions for giving via text, online, or with a check will be in the next screen and in the chat.
Well, as I walk this wicked world, searching for light in the darkness of insanity, oh yeah, I ask myself, is all hope lost? Is there only pain and hatred and misery? Oh yeah. And each time I feel like this inside, there's just one thing I want to know, and it's what's so funny about His love and understanding. Oh, what's so funny about His love and understanding. And as I walk on through troubled times, my spirit gets so downhearted. Sometimes. So where are the strong? And who are the trusted? And where is that harmony, sweet harmony now? 'Cause each time I feel it slipping away, just makes me wanna cry. And now what's so funny about His love and understanding? Oh, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? So where are the strong?
Where are the strong?
Who are the trusted?
Who are the trusted?
Where is that harmony? That sweet harmony now. 'Cause each time I feel it slipping away, it just makes me wanna cry. Oh, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Oh, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Oh, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Understanding, understanding, brother. Understanding, sister. Understanding. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Today's closing words are also from Barbara Brown Taylor. She says, "This practice is not designed to place you or those you love in danger, although it may help you discover how dangerous your own fear can be. The assignment is to get over yourself. The assignment is to love the sacred you did not make up with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. And the second is like unto it, to love the neighbor you also did not make up, as if that person were your own strange and particular self. Do this, and the doing will teach you everything you need to know. Do this, and you will live." And I invite you to take all of the words you've heard with you today and be safe and purposeful as you go forward into the world.
Now, as we leave this place, the chalice dims, but the fire still burns within our hearts. Beyond these doors, now, as we leave this place, memories of each and every face carry us into the world, and we will return, for now we know that something greater than any of us alone is part of us as we leave this place.
All right, let me, though I do want to say thank you to everyone who helped plan, create, produce, and deliver today's service. It's always a big effort. And Mark, Sarah, Sherry, Beth, Robert, AB, Kathy, Tom, and of course, Reverend Nori, thank you very much for all you did for that today.